Hello YouTube. In this new episode of Weak Point Wednesday, we're going to discuss what is, in my opinion, one of the most underdeveloped body part in bodybuilding, and that's the calves. There are a lot of memes surrounding calves, there are a lot of jokes, and there is that underlying mentality or idea or preconceived notion that the calves are 100% genetic, meaning if you don't have good genetics for calves, you're never going to have big calves. That, in my opinion, is incorrect for many reasons. The number one being that, yes, people who have low insertions for calves are going to have more muscle to develop and therefore they can get bigger calves. But when it comes to having a muscle pop, having short insertions is actually a good thing because you're going to have the ability to pack mass on that short portion of the bone that it's going to make it look much more 3D and it's going to look like it pops out. You're not going to get that massive voluminous calf effect, but the visuals aren't going to be that bad. So even if you have bad insertions, it's not the end of the wood. Your potential for absolute size is not going to be as great, same for strength, but it's not going to be what determines whether or not you can actually have calves that are going to make your leg actually look beefy instead of a chicken leg. The other issue I have with that is that the people who point out certain individuals by saying, oh, they have good calf genetics. Well, you don't know that because genetic potential is revealed by work. If you never train a muscle, you never know if you have good genetics, and I guarantee you that most people don't work their calves enough. It's the same logic with every muscle. If you have on your frame a muscle that is very dominant, most likely it's not really because you have amazing genetics for it, it's because you work it a ton, and it can be because you are obsessed with that muscle, it can be because you somehow programmed in a certain way that made that muscle blow up, and at the end of the day, you don't know if you have good genetics for that. I mean, for me, I have pretty big biceps. I don't know if I have good genetics for that. I just know that I work them like a madman. Same for my abs. The two areas of my body that grew the most are the ones I trained. That's fairly logic in my opinion. So that sort of throws a wrench in that whole genetic equation. And also because a lot of guys who have big calves used to be fat. And what does that mean? It means that they carried extra weight every day using their legs. So at the end of the day, they worked their calves. That's how their calves got big. The issue with calves is that people don't understand that we are all dealing with what people call a very resistant muscle group because we all work it. Think about the type of measurements that most people have for their calves. It's going to be 13, 14 inches, maybe even more. Most people, most non-lifters don't have 15 inches arms with zero training, especially when you consider that in terms of fat, your calves don't carry a ton of it. They do carry fat. It's not the same as your forearms, for example, but there's a lot of lean mass there. Your calf muscle is already extremely developed even without doing anything. Why? Because you use it all the time. It's probably the muscle of the body that gets fed tonnage through everyday activities the most. So once you start training it, if you see no results, it's not because the calves can't grow. It's because they're so used to the tonnage that you give them all the time that the few calf raises you do don't represent enough of an increase in terms of absolute tonnage to do anything to the muscle. The muscle is going to get tired, but it's super strong. So you need to attack it with a strategy that is going to really push it to grow. So I'm going to tell you what I do for calves. I'm shooting for, if I'm not mistaken, 18 inches calves. I have 16 inches now. I've never trained them. I played sport. They grew through sports. But I want them to reach 18 inches to match my upper leg. So the way I used to do that calf training thing, I used to have a heavy day and a medium day where I ended up realizing that by putting my calf work at the end of the workout, I was skipping it too much and I was being lazy on them. So now I have added a light day that is a superset based on the nucleus overload principles that I do on upper body day so that I cannot escape it. It's in the program in between sets. So I have to do it. And I must say, I'm reporting very good numbers. I'm not going to measure my calves until I have a pretty good chunk of hypertrophy gains to show off, but it is something I advise you do. Pick a heavy day where you're going to use heavy exercises with lower rep ranges for the calves. It can be with a calf machine. If you don't have a machine and you train at home, you can check out my Road to Bigger Calf playlist. I show the lifts I do with a barbell where I overload the calves. And I have my light day. My light day is calf raises. Keep in mind that what a calf raise essentially does is an accentuated step. When you step everywhere, you work your calves, but your calves are so used to that they're not going to grow from it. A calf raise is an exaggerated version of a step where you're going to put more pressure on the calf. That being said, body weight calf raises are not enough because they don't represent enough of an increase compared to the millions of steps you take to go everywhere if you are the type of person who actually walks around. So how do we make them tougher? One leg calf raises, slow negatives, burnout sets. Do them on the ledge and let it stretch at the bottom. Focus on the squeeze at the top. All of these are going to make bodyweight calf raises much more interesting. And even regardless of if we want to use bodyweight or not, what I found too is that I can stay with the nucleus overload practice by just picking up a 10 pound plate and doing my calf raises like this. It's hiding a fraction of my body weight, but because I do so many reps, it is going to accumulate tonnage over time, which is going to be beneficial without transforming what should be a high frequency, high volume, low intensity movement into strength work. And the last piece of the puzzle, something that I don't do enough, I really need to do it more, is I sit on the bench with an easy bar curl and I do calf raises on a block, so you can put books or plates, whatever, to have your foot elevated. And I go as much as I can. I put 25 on each side, so it's not super heavy. And when I cannot go anymore, on that stretch position, I press on the bar to stretch the calf muscles when they're completely tired, and I apply the principles of the weighted stretch in that way. And that trifecta, that those three types of calf training, in my opinion, are very beneficial. And I'm happy to see that I'm making progress, and I'm going to soon be able to report for you guys the size gains that I'm making on these. I really like big calves, but I've always been lazy on them, and I've decided that now I need to be much more disciplined when it comes to their hypertrophy. So that's going to be that for this Weak Point Wednesday for calves. If you have weak calves, follow my advice. If you have strong calves, give your method. How did you achieve them? What type of frequency, volume did you follow? Every single advice can be beneficial. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.